Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I'm going to get into a clip from the recent town hall. We're going to talk about card changes within Rebellion. We talked about on this channel what cards would be nerfed, and we've talked about one of the major impacts that Rebellion was going to bring, namely massive buffs to Weapons Trainer. But in this clip, we're going to see how they're pulling that back a little. These are some of the nerfs that we can and we are now expecting from Rebellion. And as we move toward Rebellion, they aren't going to be quite as powerful as we thought. If you want to know the details, stick around, stay tuned, like and subscribe. Also, before I get into it, my name is Dwayne Cunningham. I go by Infidel1258. You can call me 12. And we cover Splinterlands on this channel because it's changed my life and because I think it could change yours. So if that sounds interesting, subscribe. Also, if you want more members-only content that's available only to those who support my YouTube channel, check out the membership page and get subscribed at whatever level you're interested. You'll be invited to weekly live events, as well as have a library of backlog on members-only content that you can enjoy. All right, let's get into it. So yeah, there was a town hall, and it was this morning, December 4th, 2023. And it was 2 hours of amazingness. I watched it live and we got 100 likes right at the very end on YouTube. I was like in the live chat, just blowing it up at the end there, like drumming up. I started pushing around 60, 65 likes on to 100, and we got there right as they were closing the video, which I was pumped about. But lots of cool things. They talked about Rebellion, they talked about land, they talked about battle wagons, they talked about, like, go watch it. But the clip that I'm going to share with you here is going to hopefully give you a real important look into how we're handling some of the overpowered nature around Rebellion. Because I think we can agree, especially Weapons Trainer was looking really juicy. They had originally issued it in one way. Weapons Trainer ability would impart half of the power rounding down to its neighbors who don't attack. So if you have a 5 damage output, I will get half rounding down 3. But they then upgraded it so that it would be with Rebellion launched, so that you would, if you have 5 damage and you put a non-attacking monster next to you, I would get 5 damage from that. That's a huge buff. It's theoretically getting 15 damage for your one monster that has 5 damage, because the Weapons Trainer can apply to 2 neighboring monsters. And so Call Me Tim is the one who's like largely in charge of these things, and he says here in a moment after Nate asks him, we're going to pull that back a little. That was a bit too far. Let's hear what he says.
You know, I'll leave it. I'll hand off to you, Call Me Tim, to go over, you know, whatever you think you're most excited about, or if there's been recent developments with, as the Mavs have been testing it, have you got any valuable input or feedback or info that has changed anything that's being released?
Well, certainly one of the things that we adjusted after loading on Mavs was to pull back a little bit on the Weapons Trainers changing. I took a look at it, and the amount of attack you're getting relative to the mana on the Weapons Trainers still seemed a little high, so we tweaked that back, and I think that was a good change. So capping that at 3 instead of 4 for attack damage. And then I've been watching a lot of streams and channels and such, watching people play with the cards, watching people talk about the cards. There's some really good analysis and insight I've seen so far, so I'll take a look at a lot of that today. Again, decide if there's any kind of last minute tweaks that we want to make. Tweaks at this point will be, minor stat changes and things like that to maybe balance the cards out a little bit more. So what you see on Mavs is at least very, very, very close to what we'll be releasing tomorrow, most likely.
So there it is, and it's almost tucked. They're two topics really, but they're tucked in together. The first around Weapons Trainer, like I said, it was theoretically going to be a match. If you had 5, your neighbor would get 5, and then he said if you have 5, the max will be 4 for your neighbor. And right there he said, if you have 5 damage, 6 damage, 10 damage, and you have Weapons Trainer, your neighbor will never get more than 3 damage out of that. And so that's interesting. Of course, it's still really powerful. I would say it's a significant nerf. It's a buff from where it would have been originally. Let's quickly pull up a map server. And I know there's a legendary that has Weapons Trainer that I personally covered, Dark Dead Blast. So Dark Dead Blast at the highest level has Weapon Trainer, sprint, swiftness, triage, and dodge. The weapon training ability will impart the 3 magic damage, the full 3 magic damage. It's saying, so in the case of a card like this, the weapons trainer is going to provide its maximum possible output, because the most a neighboring card can receive is 3. So if you had a if Dark Dead Blast if you buff Dark Dead Blast, interesting, because of items and spells, if it's possible to add magic damage output to Dark Dead Blast and think to yourself, well, I'm going to increase my weapon training capacity on my neighboring monsters, the answer would be no, because you would bring Darg's damage output up, but it would only impart 3 and 3 to the neighbors, and only if those neighbors had no damage of their own, because that is the maximum. This is a nerf from where we thought we would go. It's a buff from where we originally were, somewhere in the middle. And as I've implied previously on this channel, with the way they look at how the content and the cards are being, I guess, received, they are super attentive to what the community is seeing, how we're playing with them, what we're noting. They are players of this community. They are in our community. Even in this town hall, it was cool listening to Matt and Nate talk about how they really truly enjoy the game. Now, you might say that's a sales pitch. You might say that's an insincere comment from people who just want our money. I know there are skeptics like that out there, but I don't buy that for a second. When I hear Matt talk about this game, I hear passion, joy, excitement. When I hear Nate talk about this game, it's the same thing. I don't know Tim as well, and I haven't heard him as much, but I can sense the same thing. They talk about playing the game in their downtime. They talk about enjoying where the game is going. I don't think it's just about wealth and riches, and certainly it isn't for me. So I love that. I identify with that. I share that. I'm excited for that. And when I hear them talk about the thoughtfulness around tweaking this weapon trainer up and then back down into this middle place, I think it's really wise. It points to a strengthening of my confidence with who they are as developers and where they're aiming for the project long term. There's another thing I want to talk about from this town hall. We'll get it in a separate video. No, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, guys. Have an amazing day. God bless.